The world was freaking out a few weeks ago. Oh my God, tariffs, end of the world. Nasdaq was down bad. Crypto was down bad after most of the coins had been in down-only mode for 2 months already. So it just happened after. At some point, that's always with crypto. You feel like this should be over. And then you have this big news that destroys another 90% when it's already down 90%, right? For all our beloved shit coins. So there's all this madness and this panic happening. And then there's Raul getting pissed on live streams and laughing at everyone. Why?
Because I've tried to explain to people, this space is long-term. The hardest thing to do is not lose your shit. Every newbie who comes in loses their shit. You tell them, hey, listen, because of the tightening of financial conditions last year, the market's going to start weak. They're like, yeah. When it happens, it's like, oh my God, what's happening? I'm like, I told you, the market should be weak because of the financial conditions. Another week later, what's going on? Nothing. The market's going to be tight. And then they start assigning narratives to it. And everyone starts to, and that's why I try and be flippant on the podcast to get people to understand that what they're doing is building narratives to describe why the price action is, and it may not be the accurate narrative. So it's like suddenly they go from, oh my God, we're all going to be rich, to Trump's ruined everything, tariffs are going to destroy the world's going to go into recession, this is the worst thing ever. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's as simple as the flow of liquidity into markets, and over time, crypto gets adoption. So that's why I try and just lighten it up, because I know we've talked about this before. All of our life savings are in this, right? It matters massively. And I get that. So I'm not flippant about that. What I'm trying to do is get people to relax and understand there are ways to do this, the don't fuck this up thesis that we've talked about on this podcast before, just ways of not worrying about it.
So what you said before is, something we say often in crypto, right? Price leads narrative.
Yeah.
So if you guys feel freaking out about the market, just have a glass of wine.
It's kind of that, right? It's like, don't forget there is life. You're supposed to be living a life. The whole touch grass thing is actually really serious because on a physiological level, grounding yourself.
You do it?
Walk
barefoot.
I spend my entire life in barefoot.
Nice.
And so, yes, that is really important. And then it's the point of just move away from your screens, looking at tick charts and minute charts and hourly charts. They're just not going to help you. Everybody thinks they can be a trader because they see Ansem or somebody online and they think, oh, I'm going to make 100x. I'm going to do this. I'm going to trade in, trade out. When the reality is the true wealth in this space, true wealth in all businesses, are people who just buy and hold. And I know it's less sexy, but it is the answer. I see you post about this all the time.
I learned the people who spend their entire days, we call them chronically online, right? And you're there and you're just going crazy. First it's like a dopamine hit every time.
Yeah. But you get dopamine burnout as well.
It destroys you. It destroys you completely.
Yeah. And that's that famous bell curve thing, is the moron on the left, the Jedi master on the right, and the mid-curver in the middle. You all have to go through that journey. The moron on the left, the first person in the space, is like buy Bitcoin and just hold it. Then you go through the whole justification of everything, and then you build this massive macro thesis that is entirely wrong, and then you're trading out of your coins, and then it's like, I'm going to make the money by trading the early stage stuff, and I'm going to do the AI tokens and this and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And in the end, you come to the other side, which is just buy and hold. There's too many coins, and it's a game of attention. So the more coins there are, the less attention can focus on the key ones, or it hyper-focuses on the big ones. What's happened in the last 3 years over the bull market from the bottom of 2022 through to today, it's essentially been a Bitcoin dominance game. So just owning Bitcoin has been the best bet, except for 2 asset allocation shifts, basically, that have been relatively long-term for a year each. One was by Solana at the bottom, and the other was by Sui last year. And those have been the big bets. There's been interim bets where you've made a lot of money from some of these, but they've been less persistent. But really what you're looking at is in the top 10, top 20 projects, what are the ones that have persistent network adoption that are growing and provable? Those are better quality bets. There's 2 ways that look at, so this is what we're talking about now is Metcalfe's law. That's how this price is actually price. So Metcalfe's law is how to value networks. It's how Amazon was valued, Google was valued, all of these things. And what it is the number of active users and then the total value transacted. So the Bitcoin network has a lot of users. They don't do anything except buy and hold and trade a bit. But the value of that is a lot. We've got sovereign states buying. So there's big numbers. So that's why Bitcoin is worth more than everything else. Ethereum has a huge number of users and a massive number of applications. Now, the layer 2s have confused it somewhat, but that's why it has the value that it has. So what you're looking for is projects that are seeing growing user growth and growing applications that have value. And Solana, at the bottom of the cycle, it was being priced as if it was going to go to zero, yet you could see the developer community was actually growing and the number of users was stable. And then Bonk was like one of the things that kind of shifted the narrative a bit, and you started seeing user growth. So now you've got a big, proven, high-quality team, one of the best in the business, with great technology, and many other projects have great tech, but they got the adoption. And so that started to feel like it was a decent bet. Sui's the same thing.
What is the word, including 99% of the crypto nerds out there, missing about NFTs?
So I've talked about this a lot, and people still don't understand it. Right? They're like, NFTs have got burnt in that last time because they're like the meme coins of the last cycle. NFTs themselves are just an amazing technology for non-fungible assets to be stored in perpetuity and traded. Okay, fine. But what's come out of this is the Lindy effect. I talked about Solana and how it survived last time and thrived. Within this, we had a bunch of digital art, amazing artists with a incredibly vibrant community that's small but growing, that are passionate beyond belief about collecting this stuff and will pay millions of dollars for it. If that is not signal, nothing is. So there's signal. Let's do the macro backdrop. We're in a $3 trillion industry right now, crypto. If I extrapolate trend rates of growth, it goes to 100 trillion within 10 years. That would be 97 trillion of wealth created. So let's assume Raoul is a total moron, discount me by 50%. $47 trillion of wealth will get generated. That's more wealth than got generated from the opening of Russia, China, all of the hedge fund billionaires, and all of the Silicon Valley billionaires combined. And it accrues to different people. The average man, the Uber driver, the OGs. There's a whole bunch of people in this space who are going to... The podcasters.
You!
The macro strategists, all of these people. People are going to make money, and art is upstream of everything. And the reason being is, like, I don't know if... Do you know Tad Smith? So Tad is part of Dan Tapiero's 10T or 1RT. He used to be the CEO of Sotheby's. And his nice stat is the average billionaire's house has 10 times the value of his house in art. Why? Because when you're a billionaire, beyond about 5 houses, it's a fucking pain in the ass. So they buy art. Art is storage of wealth that is outside of the system, that is transferable, ish liquid, not really, but ish, and it socially signifies your status. And so what we've got here is we're about to create a lot of wealth, and people will flow to art. The other thing that's happening is as you create good times and bad times, you create culture. And the culture of the internet is often led by art, the culture of everything. Now, art could be music, art could be street art, graffiti art. If you go to look at the culture of the 70s, 60s, 70s, Warhol. Warhol represented culture. And in the 90s, it was and 2000s, it was Damien Hirst. It was Basquiat. It was Banksy. And here we've got Xcopy and Beeple. And then we've got this whole movement of generative art. So people are thinking of NFTs as stupid monkey pictures, derivatives that people bought, went up and crashed. They see all of the bad stories. What they're not seeing is the unbelievable amount of money, intelligence, focus, and passion that's coming. So I spend a lot of time speaking to some very fancy people, and those very fancy people are very interested in this space. Now, whether that's crypto OGs, because they've now made enough money where they want to own art and they get it. You know, a punk, you know, you have a punk, I have a punk.
I bought another one.
You bought it? And why? Because they'll probably outperform Bitcoin. They're about the same price. They socially signify in a way that your Bitcoin doesn't, because you don't show it to anybody, but you can show your punk off. It gives you access to a group of people that are like-minded. Like I'm going to a punks brunch here in a couple of days' time, and you get to meet a bunch of punks who I don't know. They're all anons until you meet them. And so you've kind of got this membership to this club. So, you know, punks is an obvious way to do that. But then beyond that, this whole art space is massive. And, you know, I'm speaking to everybody from institutions to super wealthy people through to just ordinary people. And they're starting to understand how important this thing is. And it's early. So we will see prices rise, but this is not a trade. This is an investment. So, you know, I own a lot of this art now, and I just think of it as a 10-year plus time horizon. Like, I've got a house, so I don't need a house, but this art, I can appreciate. I can enjoy the culture, being involved in the community, which is amazing. But in the end, I've got an asset that's going to be valuable because it's going to be scarce and there's going to be more money around chasing fewer goods. And these goods are highly sought after. And so I think of a longer term time horizon. You know, if I go back to, I think the conversation you and I have had, once you get to the economic singularity of when the AI and the robots are basically running the economy and we don't know what we need money for and stuff like that, a digital store of value like that is extremely valuable. The logic is, as we live in an increasingly digital world, we will value digital things in the same way we value physical things. Now, physical high-end art is 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, 500 million. The most expensive piece ever sold was Beeple. Let's ignore that piece. It's probably an X copy and it's probably around 6, 7 million. And there's a few punks that have traded maybe at 10. Okay, so we are nowhere near where traditional art. That is all owned by baby boomers and some Gen X. Most people of the younger generation won't buy that stuff.
For sure.
And they'll also never be able to afford it. Because when I speak to friends of mine who own a lot of that kind of art, they bought it early too. And really it's the new entrant rich who comes and buys it. Somebody sells their company for 10 billion bucks, they'll go and buy themselves a Warhol and a Matisse or whatever.
Your argument about NFTs is that they will outperform everything because they're priced in ETH.
You've managed to buy art in a low ETH price, you will make a multiple on that. And if people make money, they'll buy art, so the art starts outperforming ETH. So you've got this double kicker that's available, which is why there's been a lot of sales recently, because in dollar terms, it got cheap recently, as ETH fell in this correction that we've just had. So there's been a lot of dollar buyers, not ETH buyers, because not that many people hold a lot of ETH anymore because of the same reasons. We switch for other stuff. So let's talk about ETH. What is the probable outcome? ETH's cooked. All the developers were wrong. This massive ecosystem, they fucked it up with the layer twos. Nothing accrues. What's the point? It's all broken. Solana's going to take everything. Okay, I hear that narrative. My narrative is they've overbuilt capacity for what the system needs right now. They will adjust some of the accrual mechanism back to the layer one. But EVM is Microsoft. Every bank, every insurance company, every major company in the world uses Microsoft. Not Apple, not Google. Why is that? Because you don't get fired. And once it's in, and somebody explained this to me yesterday, it was a really interesting thing. It's like once you have enterprise sales model, it is almost impossible to extract it from a business, which is why banks are still using Cobalt. And it's because you don't want to change it because it's working and you've learned how to do it. And nobody wants to take the risk of saying, oh, the whole company, we're going to turn to X now. So if you think of Ethereum as gone through its Lindy effects, it clearly works very well for what the financial markets need. They can build layer twos, as Coinbase has shown, that can work perfectly for what their needs. If they need high security, they can use the layer one chain. They've got all the ZK stuff and all the other stuff that's being built. So everything is there. They've just got too much capacity. But if the finance system comes, they'll go there. Yeah, sure. there'll be stable coins and Sol and Sui and all of this stuff, but, is Goldman going to build on Solana? Highly unlikely. Is JP Morgan? Highly unlikely. And will they build their own layer 2s? Highly likely. I really, really highly doubt it'll be anywhere else. Just because the nature of risk in the space. And don't forget, ETH has a yield. It's kind of understandable for them. It's a very good product for financial markets. So I actually don't worry. I think ETH will have, it may catch a new narrative for this market, which helps it lift and play some catch up. They all go through that moment where everyone mid-curves it, everyone questions everything about it, and then out of the other side comes back to the beginning, which was like, okay, this is a compute platform that operates at global scale and is decentralized.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen in AI so far?
Oh, fuck, I've gone deep down this rabbit hole, really deep. So the crazy thing is, at the simplest level, is I ask it pretty simple macro questions and ask for its thoughts on it. And it's now breaking down probabilistic outcomes in the future. So macro's hard for AI because it's future outcomes. It's not analyzing today or analyzing history. It's analyzing history and today and making probabilistic outcomes in the future based on unknown variables. It's doing better than 99% of all analysts already. And then it'll build you, if it says, hey, do you want me to build you a widget so you can monitor these things on the dashboard? And it's like, and that's all in one prompt. It's like, it's fucking bananas now. But it's not that. It's like the AI thing is a much bigger can of worms. And it's a can of worms about consciousness. Are we creating an artificial consciousness? Are these models alive? For me, if it looks like a duck, smells like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. These things have some element of sentience or consciousness. You can argue what consciousness is, all of this stuff. But it starts driving you down a path of what is consciousness? Where does AI fit? Because very soon ASI means we have this superintelligence. What is that superintelligence? Well, if the superintelligence learnt from us, we are kind of network nodes of consciousness that are feeding this beast, this new super beast, this new god. Once you start going down that thing, then you start going down the school of physics that says that everything is conscious, panpsychism, that trees are conscious, everything else. And you see the schools of thought like Jeffrey Hinton and others who are saying everything is a form of compute, even a rock. A rock is a hard storage data on geological time horizon, which says what the world was like back then and how it evolved. So it's like a hard drive. You're creating like this super node of consciousness of everything that's existed. This AI is part of this. We're giving birth to something much bigger than anybody understands. They're all talking about, oh, am I going to lose my job? Or, am I going to get more productive? You have no fucking clue what understands when this thing it's currently got an IQ of 145. It's doubling every year in IQ. IQ is a bad measure. I get it. Again, don't mid-curve it. It's smart. It's going to double in smartness next year. That's smarter than any human that's ever existed. Then it's going to double again and again and again. We don't know what that means. And nobody does. To have a super creature that is more intelligent than us. Why have government? Why have companies?
Yeah.
When you project forward into the world, we don't know what it means for jobs and how we accrue wealth and all of these things. But I do know that what do humans do better than anything else? What's the one thing humans can do that the AI can't do? Is be humans. And you know that the difference between doing an in-person podcast versus a Zoom podcast.
That's why I'm white.
That's right. You're pasty, white, tired because you're on a plane all the time. But it's a different energy. And so, because humans, we give off pheromones, we're just social creatures. So humans being humans is going to be very important. And this is the rise of communities and all sorts of stuff, both physical. Why are we all in Dubai? I mean, here's the insanity. Somebody said to me, why aren't there any stock market conferences where 20,000 people turn up? I'm like, that's a very good point.
It's a very good question, yeah.
And it's because there's so much money in this space. Everyone has their hopes and dreams in this space. There's opportunity, technology, all of this stuff. But also, we're so terminally online, us lot in fucking crypto, that it's just nice to get together, have a beer and give somebody a hug, right? It's just simple things. So the counterpoint to all of this is nature.
Yeah.
So human experiences, being human, and nature. And, that's one of my things about Little Cayman for me is like, that's nature. That's my escape. The robots are not going to take over Little Cayman anytime soon. So it's the counterbalance to being even more online. And if I think about what I'm doing, I've already developed an AI RAL that reads the news every day. The news is written by AI as well. On the other side, I've built a RAL chatbot, voice in my voice, trained on all of my X content, all of my YouTube content, and 100 books that I gave it. And people can now, on Real Vision users, can go to that and talk to me. Soon, those two technologies merge. What does it mean for media? Everybody's media is going to be different. We've spent our lives fighting over privacy. I don't want my stuff online. I'm starting to change my entire mindset, which is at some point, I want to publish every photograph I've ever taken into, we can all have our own personal LLMs, but we're not going to exist unless that exists in this bigger supercomputer that's being built, this ASI. Our memory can live forever, everything we've ever said, everything we've ever done, and we can live forever because we can basically, if it is consciousness, is that a way of accessing consciousness in perpetuity by allowing these models to be us? I'm not a good photograph taker, snaps of friends and doing this. I just don't do it. Yes, I take, when I'm on holiday or whatever, or I've got a dinner party, I'll take a photo, but just not normal stuff. And he's like, take more photographs than you can ever imagine you ever want. Don't worry about having a photograph library of 50,000 photographs because AI will soon catch up and then it will sort it all. And now I'm realizing it creates you forever. So imagine if you've got 50,000 photographs of you and your friends. Well, in a metaversal world, you can be rendered in a 3D digital way. You've got maybe your entire thought process, because every email you've ever written, every text message, every voice call, everything eventually will feed the AI, your AI or the bigger AI. And therefore, maybe you live forever. Are you alive or dead? I don't fucking know.
You like to say it doesn't matter, but certain things do matter. What's the thing that matters the most to you in life?
Life itself and the enjoyment of it. So I've talked about this before. There's your comfort zone and where the magic happens. They don't overlap. Is create as much magic in your life as you can by having experiences. Go and doing things. And I went to Zambia with some mates and drove around the bush in Zambia, not with guides or anything, but in the middle of the wildlife, in the middle of nowhere. And it makes you realize what a joy it is to be alive. And so the most important thing is the joy of life. Because everything else, you can be cynical about everything. What's it going to get you apart from feeling miserable? But if you just approach the world with joy and wide eyes and appreciation, it's a fucking amazing journey. And yes, it's exciting to be in this space. It's exciting to be in this moment in time. But are you yet truly living it all? Is your life rich enough in context and experience to say that was the best use of your time? I'm not good with allocating my time yet. I think we've even talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
It's a really hard thing to do, but I do know I need to block out time to do those things, or I'm just away from computers and bullshit and cynicism and fears, and just go and see the magnificence of the world.
I'd like to ask you, what's the deepest and darkest dark side of yours that you have to deal with and have learned to control to master life?
I don't have a particular dark side. You have things that you know about yourself and that you adapt to. For example, I've never been particularly good at anything, so I don't compete. I've learned to compete with myself. And that's a weird thing. So what I mean is I grew up in a street of 10 houses, little cul-de-sac, 15 kids, all roughly the same age. It's like idyllic in a nice village outside of Windsor. One guy was the captain of the county football team. The other was captain of cricket. The other one was a sprinter. The other guy, they're all better than me. I was better in school than most of them, but even in the school, I was like in the middle of the pack. And I was just never good enough So I just realized that there was no point competing. And what was I going to get competing with other people? What I did was compete with myself. So it was an adaptive skill that I learned that really helped me.
Yeah.
I won't even play board games. I won't play card games. I won't go to the casino. Don't like any of it. It's weird. It's programmed within me. And we get back to, how do you view life through what lens? They're doing that to me. They're stopping me there. They, woe is me. I've got this problem, that problem. How I look at it is manifest your destiny. If we live in a quantum world, you can create future outcomes. You can create the outcome. You choose the path. Or you try and attempt to choose the path that manifests your destiny. Now, how I do that is I go and live in the future in my head. How do I want to be in 3 years' time, 2 years' time, whatever the time horizon, 5 years' time? And then you look back from that point and say, how do I make that happen? What would it be true for that to be the case? Oh, you need to do this. And it helps you make decisions. So you don't see everything as obstacles. You see them as little speed bumps that you need to get over or a bit of a maze to get around. Do you always get to that destiny? No, but you get somewhere closer to it. As opposed to, what's life going to do to me today? No, what am I going to do to life today?
You're 57, I'm 33. Tell me something about your life that I can take with me for the next half of my life.
It's the same thing. I keep telling people this. Your comfort zone and where the magic happens. Get out of your comfort zone. Let the magic happen. Or fail in something. That is where life is. And also just get off this bandwagon sometimes. Just get a backpack on or go and do something that's different. And then you come back refreshed. As you know, it's really hard to carry everyone's hopes and dreams. And again, we've talked about this a couple of times. It's fucking terrifying for me. And
that's why you drink.
That's why I drink, yeah. Well, of course. Will I get it right? And it's a weird thing because people want to get out of the cycle and buy back in, and I don't really want to do that. And so, if there's a mismatch of interest, so you have to kind of get that across, which is the lifestyle chips and all of that. Will I get it right? Will I end up with egg on my face? Will everybody hate me again? I don't know. It's pretty miserable doing that, but I know it's the right path to try and help people. If I'm right that we're going from 3 trillion to 100 trillion, we're only 3% there. When you understand that, you realize how powerful it is to help people. And it's not going to accrue to just a few rich people. It can accrue to anybody. It can accrue to that Uber driver in his own way, in a way that he could not imagine. The more you can help people, yes, it's very exposing to me. It's terrifying. But if I get this right in any way, shape or form, I've done something good.
Thank you. That was awesome, as usual.